Welcome to this week's of the Digital Drop podcast. The topic of today's conversation is how to motivate and inspire your remote and multinational team. I'm very excited to be joined by Brad Burton, a 4 times best-selling author, world-class award-winning motivational speaker, and on top of all of that, you've also managed to build a multi-million pound national business network. Brad, welcome to the Digital Drop.
Thank you so much, Ned. Listen, I did before the pandemic decided that it'd no longer be running a national business network. So yes, absolutely true. But the pandemic on March the 20th, 2020, decided that things were going to change.
Hey, it still doesn't take away from how far you got that and
Correct,
the
boss.
impact that it's had, right? So, Brad, let's get stuck right in. I've been really looking forward to having you on the show. Really, this will add a slightly different twist to the usual topics that we talk about. But you've built an incredible career as a motivational leader, motivational speaker. Could you tell me a little bit more what took you along this path and what drives you and keeps you on this path?
Great question. Listen, there's two versions of you. There's a good version and there's a not so good version. Well, guess what? There's two versions of me. You know, which Brad am I? I'm the guy that was born in 1973, 52 now. Dad left when I was 6 months old. My mum brought me up. We moved 14 times from the age of 8 to 14. Left school with no qualifications. Done 4 years on benefits. Been addicted to drugs twice. Got shot at 21. And delivered pizza at 31. Am I that guy, or am I the 4-time best-selling business author, the founder of 4 Networking and the UK's #1 motivational business speaker? Two sides of the same coin. And I wouldn't be much of a motivational speaker if I'd not kind of gone through everything that I'd kind of dealt with. And I think that, you know, my story is everyone's story. Everyone has a story. Whether people are daft enough to share it or not, that's a different ballgame. But look, I wouldn't change a single thing about my life. You know, the worst day of my life, January 2nd, 1995, those 2 bullets going through my window. I moved away from Salford, Manchester, my hometown, my birthplace, and I moved to Somerset. And it was at that point when I realised that something needed to change. And that was really the starting point for this new version of me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I'm a big believer in adversity being the source of our strength. And generally speaking, I've also had a lot of adversity in my life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It's what gives us our strength. Generally speaking, people with no adversity in their life don't really do very much with their life.
You know what, Nidge? I think you look like the kind of guy who goes to the gym. When you go to the gym, you lift up weights, and guess what? The idea is that you rip a muscle and it grows back stronger. That's the same principle with any kind of adversity. So what happens is when you deal with stress or high level of pressure, and when you get through it, you're kind of forged in iron or steel. And you become stronger. But most people kind of run away. People are addicted to comfort right now in life and in business. And I think that comfort creates bigger problems than the ones we're trying to avoid on occasion.
Yeah, and I think that's a very relevant point to what we're trying to discuss today. So as a business owner myself, for over 15 years now, COVID was not only a shocking situation for all of us, but the way in which COVID acted as a catalyst to work culture and expectations, certainly from an employee perspective, it has been something that for me as a business leader, it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge to accept, right? Obviously, I want to give the best working environment to my team. But I do have those questions. Are we as productive? I don't think as leaders we have a choice in changing the status quo because the world's moved so far ahead. But, you know, when you're managing a remote multinational team, from a leader's perspective, how do you ensure or reassure yourself that the productivity you're likely to get from your team and that work ethic is as strong as it used to be when you used to have everybody in the same room and you can see what's going on?
It's not. And I think anyone that pretends it is fibbing. You know, the reality is I've been self-employed now for 20 years and, you know, not everyone's cut out for it. That's the reality of it. You know, working in an environment like this, I don't have any staff anymore. I've gone from 15 to me. That's it. And, you know, it's a lonely place. And box room isolation can start working against you. Now, don't get me wrong, we go back down to March 2020, everyone furloughed, lovely, sat in your garden, beautiful, lovely summer's day, Stolford's pressed cider, summer fruits, great. But the reality is that actually, would we, if we'd not had the pandemic, would we be demanding work from home? I get it. I understand it. I genuinely do. I do get it because, when I was employed, the last thing I want to be doing is spending $6,000 on transport and putting an extra 12 hours on my week. I get it. But I
Right.
think there's got to be a balancing act here between effectiveness or comfort. Remember, I said we're addicted to comfort. It's back
Yeah.
down to that again. And actually, it creates a bigger problem. So this idea that you can all work from home, not everyone's cut out for work from home. They're just not. So I've realised something, that one of the things that, how do you ensure that people are working? I would not have anyone on my payroll if I didn't think that he was working. And what I mean by that is I would rather my team work 4 hours at 100% than 8 hours at 50. Right? I am not bothered as long as the job gets done. Right, and I've always been honest about that. And I was like work from home mentality before it was a work from home mentality. But that does require a level of trust. It also requires a level of recruitment, which once again, in an interview situation, people can say everything that they want to say and say it beautifully. The reality is that when you're working from home, it is a lonely place, and you do need to keep people engaged, because you kind of don't want to be the one, and I've worked with teams, you don't want to be the one that's breaking to turn around and say, actually, I want to come back into the office, because you've got everyone else saying they don't want to come back into the office. So it's a really difficult set of circumstances right now. And it is a balancing act between employer and employee. And it's a bit of a dance at the moment, but I do believe, genuinely, I'm finding now on my travels that things are coming back to work, and I do believe it needs to. I think we're all kind of bored of working from home now. I think we're bored, if I'm honest. I think we need some stimuli, and certainly, as a motivational speaker, I do sessions online. However, it's a bit like drawing a picture of a sandwich when you're hungry. It's a whole lot better doing it face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with our client base, we're in a world where it's logical just to have everybody jump on a Teams meeting, but wherever possible, I will drive 3-4 hours. I'll fly internationally to have that face to face, because you get so much more out of it. There's so much more to communication than just verbal and visual, right?
But you know what, Ned? It's
So,
interesting because I ran a business network. We was running 5,000 business networking meetings each year across the UK in the restaurants and hotels up and down the land. So I get it. And we are social animals. And I think that we are, as business owners, we have eroded what it meant to be a business leader. So somebody like yourself, very presentable, confident, massive benefits to you, to you meeting people. But people who are not confident, there was massive benefits to get more confidence. So people have now withered. They're withered. They don't want to do it because they've never done it, or they've not got the confidence. And I think there's an entire generation that is going to be suffering as a result of this. People don't like picking the phone up anymore. It's just a strange set of circumstances. People hiding behind the internet, hiding behind direct messages, and this is where the magic happens. You've got to dance around the handbag a little bit before you invite somebody back to coffee. And I think we've lost what it means to be a human business person.
yeah, it's funny. Literally last week, I had a meeting with my entire client services team, because, I'm trying to get updates on certain things that are going on. And the amount of times I hear, oh, we've requested a call and we're waiting for them to get back to us. And I feel like banging my head against the wall. So you do realize you have a phone and there's a phone number. It's a quick question. Why not just pick up the phone?
Well,
Yeah,
I think the businesses that are going to succeed right now are the ones that are going to go back to the future. The ones that actually recognize. I used to say this with my own networking group. The first one to pick up the phone wins. You'd have people going, I'm looking for a graphic designer on my community. I'm looking for a whatever SEO specialist. Oh, we're an SEO. Here's my website. Here's this. What? First one, pick the phone up. Steve, how you doing? I've just seen your post there. So tell me about your boom. That was it. And it's so simple. So, and I think people have got to choose the hard. And what I mean by that is that if I don't like picking the phone up, what's the worst case scenario? They don't answer, or the worst case scenario is probably the best case for people. The worst case scenario is to say no. What's the best case? The best case is that you end up getting business, which then means that you can afford to take your kids out for a Pizza Hut a weekend, and it means that you get boom, 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 and your confidence improves. And I go back down to what I said. We're addicted to comfort. And actually, where
yeah,
any kind of growth comes is discomfort. You think about your business. So very well now, your staff and everything is amazing. When you first started, it's you. You're more
yeah.
like a market trader than a managing director. BMW 5
Absolutely.
Series outside now and spinny chairs and glass fronted offices, but it wasn't always like that. And I think that this is the bit people need to understand. I've had it. Can you introduce me to JCB because I would like to speak there for them? I'll do a keynote. It's like, no, you can't. You can't skip the steps. And I think that's where it's gone wrong. I think we've seen so much stuff on the social media that you can just join a course or you can go on a thing and you can become a millionaire. It doesn't work like that. It requires you to do things that you don't want to do. It requires you to push through the discomfort to get to the point. And I think we're addicted to comfort.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. And this is where the fears come, because obviously working, I notice myself when I'm working from home, it is more comfortable. But I always used to have this routine throughout my career previously, where the routine of putting a suit on in the morning, of getting ready, of actually going
Yeah,
into an
yeah,
office,
yeah.
it puts you in a it puts you in a different psychological state. It's like a switch. Right now I'm in work mode, and when you work from home,
This is the same. This is my T-shirt. It's a Superman outfit, which does it. This is my
yeah,
workwear. I don't really wear suits, but I get it. You're right. You have these rituals. We all have these rituals that switch us on. And if you've got a meeting, you'll have your lucky cufflinks, or you'll have your lucky shirt, or your lucky watch, whatever it is. And it's about finding that as individuals. And I think when we're working from home, we've kind of got to find what that thing is that lights us up and enables us to be that best version of ourselves.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's reasonable to assume most business leaders would love to get back to the office and to have their teams in the office, because that's the devil that we know, and the devil that we know how to measure. But we don't necessarily have that luxury, because the workforce has changed, and there's so many options for remote working. So as a leader, how should my leadership style evolve in this transition? Because it's not just about policing staff and making sure that, or productivity, it's about aligning, motivating, inspiring staff. Um, how can I, as a leader, adapt my leadership style to
Yep.
accommodate for this remote hybrid world that we're living in?
I started off my business. It was me, member number one. No investment, no nothing, and I created it to a £2.5 million business. Don't have any qualifications, as we talked about. But what I did, and this is back in the day, talking 2006, is I had three things to lead: ideas, vision, and belief. It's about belief. It's about belief. It's about belief. 100% misguided, unwavering self belief. Right. And you, as a leader, that's what you need to do. So if you're speaking to your remote every single Monday, this is what I work for a company at the moment. I do Motivation Monday, and I come on there and I speak to all the teams globally, three offices: Dubai, South Africa, America, and UK four. And I do the same. And this is what you've got to do. You've got to instill people with ideas, vision, and belief, and you've got to give them a voice, right? And you've got, because okay, Nigel, how did you get on last week? Get some energy to it. You have to, right? Hello, everyone. My name is Brad. I'm the UK's number one. Whoa, come on. So my name is Brad Burton, the UK's number one motivational business speaker. And what we're going to talk about today, and that's what you need to do. You need to inspire. Oh, I don't like speaking in cameras, and you can't look at the lens because you're like Stevie Wonder, think it's going to steal your soul, right? You've got to start getting that confidence. And if you don't 100% believe in yourself, 100%, don't get upset when the other people at the other side don't 100% believe in it either. So the first person you've got to convince of anything is yourself. So that's what I would do as a leader. I would say, right, how do I present in a manner? What is the start? What's the middle? What's the end? And what's the outcome that we want to do, with a view that you share your vision? So when I started my business off and ended up with 68,000 business networking meetings across the UK in total, nobody gave me a chance. Nobody gave me a chance. But I inspired people. This wet behind the ears Mancunian that couldn't even speak English, all right, kid, you're all right. That inspired people. Through what? Through raw passion and energy. And when you started on your business, day one, you had raw passion and energy. And then 15 years on, it's still
Yeah,
there, but it's not as strong as it once did. And what you've got to do, you've got to get back to day one enthusiasm. And I say that to your staff as well. If you came through this door, when you came for the interview, you had all that enthusiasm. And 6 months on, start bitching. 12 months on, 3 years on, how can we get you back to that day one enthusiasm? And that's exactly what I do. I get people back to that day one enthusiasm, and you just see the difference between an organization when everyone is started again. The start line starts again.
fascinating. But again, what I'm hearing here is you've got to, as you would in any other scenario, lead through example. You've got to be the example or of how you want your team to react. Um,
Edge. Let me say something. I always create mayhem when I say this. I say you can't trust a fat motivational speaker. Can't trust a fat motivational speaker. I get everyone kicks off. It all creates mayhem on social media. And the reason I say that is I was 4.5 stone heavier. Right, I was
yeah,
4.5 stone heavier. So if anyone wants to go and have a look, Google it on YouTube. Brad Burton working lunch. You'll see me on BBC Two. 4.5 stone heavier, unrecognisable. 2010, so 15 years ago. And the first person I had to motivate to make change was me. And this goes back down to it. You want to inspire your team. You want to get your team all excited and energized, and yet you've got a face like a slapped ass. Not really, Nedge, but you see the point I'm making is that you
yeah.
need to be the product. How can I, if I was 4.5 stone heavier, how can I motivate anyone to make change? Well, you say, well, okay, do you like being that way? Well, so I had to motivate myself, and the same goes for you from a leadership perspective. You can talk about what you actually want, but doing it's a different ball game. It comes from you, the head rots the fish. If you're rubbish, I said before, I'm a motivational speaker, I can't have a bad day. So I go
Yeah.
speak in front of 1,000 people, I'm having a bad day. Oh, sorry, everyone, I'm having a shit day. Oh, it's all right, Brad. I said, no one ever. I cannot have a bad day. So what I've got to do is I've got to work my angles so that I do not have a bad day. If I know I'm speaking on a Thursday, if I want to have a bad day, I'm having it on Tuesday. Right? And that's how it works. You know that you're presenting on a Monday, boom, you make certain that you wake up Monday and you're energized and ready to roll.
A lot of this resonates. I can, like you said, there's a good version of ourselves and there's a bad version. And I wish I could say for the past 15 years I've always been the good version, but it's been peaks and troughs.
Nedge,
Like
Nedge,
life takes over.
let me show you, mate. This is what I use. This is my own thing that I use to work out when the good version and the bad version. And it's like a computer game. It's like a computer game. I
Yeah.
play computer games. Level 1 wizard, level 20 wizard. Same wizard, one's stronger, one's not. What's the difference? And that applies to you. So once you suss this out, you can track your system of your performance, and I do it on a daily basis. So I know, I'm not good today. Why is that? I'm being pessimistic. Why is that? Because my energy is low. Why is that? Because I was out to the West End till 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, boom, then. So that's that. I'm telling you, it's all connected, mate.
Yeah, so that mindfulness is key, right? So being self-aware.
Crucial.
But what I can retrospectively, what I always do know is, I mean, if somebody asks me what's it like running a business, one analogy I always use is it's like you've got a baseball bat and there's an endless set of baseballs coming at you, and you've just got to knock them out of the park to the best of your ability. And each one of them represents essentially a problem or a challenge. But on a good version of myself, I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm in the gym. I'm hydrated. I'm on it. On a bad version, I wake up 30 minutes before the first call, and I'm having my coffee during my first call. And the level of stress and anxiety that I feel as a business owner in dealing with those problems, you can't compare the two. It's incredibly
Ned,
drastic.
you know
So
what's lovely about this, mate, is that you are every single business owner, right? I'm every single business owner. But
yeah,
the difference is most don't talk about this, right? Everyone in
yeah,
today's day and age, it's all, getting out Lamborghinis, helicopters and all that. The reality is of it, you're
yeah,
self-doubt going, not wanting to speak to the wife, going, good, not telling her the problems. And, you're balancing finances and people don't see it. I got to this point, right? There's two things here. I got to a point where I thought I would get a business that everything just falls away. You don't have any problems. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. You think that money solves everything. It doesn't. It creates more money, more problems. And actually, you can't run away from your head. And you could be the best person today, and then tomorrow you wake up and you're fractured. I've got I know people that are number one top selling pop stars, dragons from Dragons Den, world class boxers. And if I speak to them on a one-to-one basis, they will tell me they've got self-limiting beliefs. They will tell me that they've got imposter syndrome. You would never know. Never know.
yeah.
They walk out in the arena, you go boom, and their heart is going boom, 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 boom. Scared, terrified, but they have to pretend to be a million, impervious. I'm telling you, and this is the bit, once you realise that, life becomes a whole lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we need that level of anxiety to some extent, or some level of anxiety to bring
Discomfort,
the best out of
discomfort.
us
We
as
need
well.
discomfort.
Yeah,
Discomfort. It's fight or flight. And that is what made you so great.
Yeah, but I still get imposter syndrome all the time. Even with this podcast, right? I'm so outside of my comfort zone because I'm not somebody for self-promotion, but at the same time, it's a great way of getting great content and
Absolutely.
interacting with people like yourself. So I found it immensely beneficial in learning and for my personal development.
Ned, let me just say one thing. As a motivational speaker, I've got a strange profession where I've got to walk into a room full of strangers and win them all over. Strangers of different ages, different walks of life, different financial statuses, yet somewhere along the way I've got to speak to them. That didn't come easy at first. I remember coming out my first ever gig, I got invited to introduce another motivational speaker, and I'm going, oh, come on. That was my understanding about what a motivational speaker would do, go woo,
Yeah,
right? I don't think I've wooed in the last 10 years, but the point is that somewhere along the way, you have to start somewhere. And every expert was once a beginner. And I think that that's what you need to understand in all this. So fair play to you for doing this.
yeah. Well, thank you. Well, it gets better and easier with each episode that we do.
Oh,
So to bring it a little bit back more towards, okay, how do we apply these principles? So could you maybe share a real world example um, of a scenario where a team's gone from struggling to thriving, and the change was based on leadership, um,
yep.
and what happened there in a bit more of a step by step process.
So there's one company that I work with, £50 million business. There was 27 when I first started with them. I've been with them now 18 months. And the director brought me in. So the director brought me in as a sounding board, right? So what happens is when I work with organizations, we, if there's anything that they share with me, it's 100% in confidence, right? So any kind of issue that anyone shares me, unless they've said to me I can speak candidly about it, so it's effective there. I got brought in as a sounding board. 3 months later, did a beautiful job with the MD. Once again, this orientating them. So that effectively you take a car for an MOT. When was the last time you took yourself an MOT? And that's what I do. So once they're right, he invited me to work with the senior leadership team. So I've been with them for 18 months now, and the entire senior leadership team, are no longer working in silos. They're all working collective there. There's a shared goal, there's a shared vision, there's shared communication. We do a newsletter for them so that all the staff can understand what's going on, and we just communicate now. Look, the reason that I kind of recognize this is, remember, I ran a national business networking organization with multi-sites, so 200, 250 sites across the UK with a area and regional leader team. So I had to communicate, I had to disseminate information. So that kind of allows me to do that. And the other thing that I did was with my network was I had 1,500 meetings, networking meetings. At each meeting, I would meet people for a 10-minute one-to-one. So I've had 4,500 10-minute conversations with people, so I can kind of get to the nub of a problem. Once again, people from all walks of life. So that organisation, I've been there 18 months, and I'm effectively within the organisation now, and I'm trusted advisor. And I think that the nature of me as an individual is I don't blow wind up anyone's ass, and I'm really honest about what I see, and I will deal with a problem as soon as it arises. So pebbles in shoes don't magic the way out. And where we live in our home, we moved in this house. There was a spider in each of the corners, and my wife said, "Oh, look, there's a spider in the corner. Do you want me to get them out?" She went, "I don't mind small spiders." I said, "Where do you think the big ones come from?" And I think that's what I deal with. I deal with the small spiders. So before any difficult conversations, I deal with them as an organisation, so that people bitching and whining about an organisation or the management team, I'll go and have that conversation with a view that I'm trying to fix it, like a pre-HR. So before it ever gets to HR, we deal with whatever it is. Can I get a win-win-win solution? What I mean by that is a win for you, a win for you, a win for me. That's what I always do. And I think that fundamentally at its core, people trust me, the people that I work with, because they know I'm a man of my word. If I say whatever you share with me doesn't go anywhere, that's it. And when the management team is that I said that, when I'm working with your team, whatever they tell me is an airlock. It doesn't come back to you, whatever they tell me. And it allows me to have that honest, straight conversation, which is where I think businesses go wrong. They don't have the conversation that everyone's having without them involved.
Okay, so if I'm and by the way, I'm very aware of your reputation. I heard of you through mutual connections long before we ever spoke or we invited you
Do
to
you
be on the
really?
podcast. And I'm a huge fan, of the work that I've seen. Um, I'm keen on bringing somebody like yourself into my organization. I'm always looking, how can I step up my game? How can we step up our game? What would an engagement look like? So if I brought you in, I'm a business leader. I said, look, Brad, we're doing this well. I want us to go this well. I don't know where the problem is. There's 50 people. They're spread across 3 locations. How does that actually look like? What would you do?
So if I said to you, I'd say first things first. I've got a magic button that when I press it, your 3 biggest problems or challenges get fixed. What would they be? So don't have to answer them now because obviously, but that's what I'd ask you. And I'd say, okay, why haven't we fixed them up until this point? And you tell me, I say, well, what would happen if? So that would be a starting point where I'd work with the
Mhm.
individual like yourself on a 4 weekly basis, on a rolling session, once a week session, 60 to 90 minutes, as long as it takes, with a view that once you give me an assessment of where you are, I would then say, well, this is the way that I would fix that. So there's various things that we do, which is decision maker cards, which are like,
Yeah.
what are them? Exercises that I do. So I go and visit the teams. I'd either speak to them as individuals on Zoom or face to face, or I'd run a team maker day, which gets everyone on the same page, figuratively and literally. So there's loads of tools that I do. I'm in danger zone here because what I end up doing is I'm a bit like a plumber showing you the toolbox. Right, oh yeah, this thing, and it's like I don't care, just get me plumbing working. But I have I'm a motivational speaker primarily. That's what I do. I'm a motivational speaker. So if you think about that, I go and speak to hundreds, thousands of people.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You've got yourself a personal motivator. So I'm a bit like a personal PT. You've now got a personal motivator. When you're having a bad day, I make sure that you orientate you so you don't have a bad day and actually get ahead of it. So you've effectively got me kicking you up the arse, plus helping you from a management perspective in terms of any difficult conversations, or if you need me to go and straighten somebody out. And what I mean by that, it's like a wonderfully positive, benign enforcer. So there's lots of stuff that I do that works,
Mhm.
and it's completely unconventional. Completely unconventional. It's just not normal, and I didn't even realise that what I do because I've got my background and you can say with everything that I've gone on in my past. But I bring it, and I've got the Times said about me, which is beautiful. Behind the bluff exterior of the man from Manchester is a shrewd business brain. It's like the Times saying that about me. So yeah, but I'd be delighted to have a conversation beyond this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but unfortunately, not everybody has the luxury or the budget to bring in an expert, especially at current times where everybody seems to be reeling in their budgets. So what is there any pointers that you could give to leaders out there on what they can start doing today to
Yeah, well, let
start
me just go back to that
addressing
point.
and being more mindful?
Let me address that point that you just said there.
Sure.
So many businesses are zombie businesses right now, right? They are terrified. They are suppressed, effectively hiding behind a tree while the bullets go there. You might as well go out through a headshot, not a leg wound, right? So I'd say this to you, what's going to change? Oh, well, we're hoping the market's going to change. You can hope all you want, right? Doing that isn't a strategy. And I would suggest that, pop your head out before you end up going down, down, down. And this is what's going on. I don't think, and I'll say this now, is I don't think people have quite recovered from the pandemic. I think there's still a level of malaise. I think there's a real apathy going on. I think the UK is lacking in hope, completely lacking in hope as individuals. And I would say, if you imagine as an organisation, and I say this to people, and I say this to owner directors, straight question: yes or no, are you being the best version of you right now? If they say yes, say good. If you say no, say why not? Because unless you can be the best version of you, we ain't going to solve this problem, whatever the problem is. And this is where I come out of business from the individual's perspective, and that's what I'd say to the individuals. So you say to me, what practical advice would I give you right now? If I put a gun to your head, I do have one here somewhere. I do. Right? It's a false one. Don't worry, it's a false one. But I put a gun to your head and I say, right, double your sales in the next month, or you won't see next month. What would you do? Manchester motivation. I think the whole thing about this is that you need to put yourself under pressure. You need to put yourself under pressure. The discomfort, we're avoiding the discomfort. And then by avoiding the discomfort, we're going to create more discomfort. So the question is this: if you don't change direction right now, what does 6 months look like? What is going to happen in 6 months? So you have the opportunity right now to get someone like me in to actually do something. And here's the thing, right? I'm a man of my word. I will tell people if I don't believe that I can change something, I'll say, yeah, I can't. Don't believe it. You're too far gone. But equally, I'll be really honest with you. So in answer to the question, ask yourself this question: what can I do today? with what I've got. Not when we get some investment, not when that happens, not when that. What can I do today with what I've got? Is everyone giving me their all? 100%. If
Mhm.
not, why not? Is it that they shared with the vision? They don't know what the part is right now. They're tired. They're bored. They're unenergized. What's going on? Go after the individuals. To fix a business, go after the individuals. And I think that what's
Mhm.
happened is, oh, well, we need more sales. What you need is you need an energized sales team. Your sales team are not energized at the moment. They've got faces like slapped asses. So they're going to sell nothing. So if we energize them, say their energy levels at 50, 60%, if we energize them and get 70%, will we get a better increase of sales? Yes. So why are we worried about sales? Let's get the energy. It's completely different. And I'll tell you the other thing as well. This is where businesses go wrong, is they're focused on their business. Yeah, what we need to do, we need to increase sales by 3% this year. Truth, I'm not asked. I work here. I'm on 25 grand a year. I'm not bothered about your 3%. So you need to
Yeah.
make it work for them as well. You need to make it. If we get 3%, we're going to get this, this, and this. You need to have a collective goal that is not just a company. And as a company, be really honest with yourself. Say, okay, instead of having 3%, why don't we go for 4? We'll give them 1%. Or why don't we go for 5?
Mhm.
And that's what you need to do. Incentivize people. But what we end up doing is, because convention, and I say this, start again, blank piece of paper. We get a blank piece of paper of these pads that I get, my A3 pads, blank piece of paper,
Yeah.
and I go, right, what do we need to do to make things better? Now look, these are right. Be the best you. This is my workings out for a couple. We sit here and I thrash it out and I say, right, I want us to write down all the ideas that you've just got. Just download all your ideas. We download them and we get the big red pen and we put circles around 3 of them and say, right, we're going to go for that one, and that one. What do we need to do to make it happen? Boom. So there's a load of these things going on, but I just think that what's happened, I think that so many people are just stuck in the ways, and they need to be different. They need to do things different and more modern. Blank piece of paper, start again. That's my advice.
As we speak, I can't help but reflect and see, okay, where can I find an example in my experience that relates to this? And COVID was a high anxiety time for any business owner. But I
Oh,
remember at the
100%.
outset making a decision, and I thought, well, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down together. So I made a commitment to my team that we're not going to furlough anybody, even though we had no work to do. But I also recognize there's an opportunity where, when else in our lives are we going to get an opportunity where the whole world stops, right? So why do we not capitalize on this and keep moving forward? And luckily, we were healthy enough to do it. But what got me through on a personal level was reading a lot of Stoicism, and I get a lot of that from what you're
Oh,
saying
beautiful. Give me a big hug. Yes,
here.
absolutely. Have I
Virtual
done everything that I could possibly do in this situation? Yes. Well, let it go. Forget it. Let me say
Yeah,
one thing now. You just brought me right up an edge, right?
good.
I talk about this. So there's someone that I've been helping recently that has been dealing with a bereavement. And I said to them, I said, look, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to be really honest with me. They're devastated. And I said, would she want you to feel pain right now? And this lady said, no. Would she want you to feel love right now? She said, yes. I said, let me tell you something. Right now, you've got a big red hot coal and you are tying the two together, love and the pain. Let go of the pain, maintain the love. And this is my stoicism that I have. I have my own religion. It's called Braddism. Help many,
Okay.
hurt few, live life. Help many, hurt few, live life. And I'm telling you, we've just made life too complex. And what you just talked about stoicism, you know, my business, 2.5 mil gone. But you know what? Mountaineers don't stay at the top of mountains. I've done it. I did
Yeah,
it. I did what everyone told me I couldn't do. And I think that that's the
absolutely.
bit about life. The pandemic wipes out, but what does it make possible? It makes possible for me to stay at home today and not have to be in the office, and my daughter, who's on half term, and spend some time with her when I'm not podcasting. And I think that what you've just clocked there, mate, is 100% correct. And it heartens me that you just have stoicism.
Here. Hey, I honestly, I think it's massively helped me with my own mental health.
Good.
Absolutely, it's that recognition. What's in your control and what's not in your control, and you can't control if clients are going to buy. What you control is what you do to influence that from your side.
And this is the bit. So when sales team, we need to push sales. Let me tell you something. If you get the sales right, people, I'm not a salesperson, right? But yeah, guess what? I sell stuff, right? And what I do is I create the conditions where people buy. I don't sell, right? I've
Yeah.
literally just got, by the way, just come through now, a conversation I had 2 hours ago for me to book in to go and do a team builder day. Literally just come through. There was no sales pitch. There was no sales pitch. And if you can get that to that point where people just buy because you've got everything right, I think that's the modern day. I think that's the more modern day. Rather than being persuasive and convincing somebody, you don't need to do that if you get things right. And it's just a conversation with an obvious output, which is, that's it. So I get it completely.
Good. Well, I think we definitely have a lot of synchronization. I think a lot of leaders out there are going to resonate with this, because as leaders, when we speak to each other, we release the skeletons out of the closet. We're more comfortable, even though to the rest of the world you sometimes have to portray this image.
Ned,
If you,
one thing. Let me say one thing because it's important. Is that leadership is a lonely place, right? In that you can't tell your wife what's really going on in the business. You can't tell your staff what's really going on, and people look at it from their perspective, right? If as a business owner, I remember this, if people would have seen it from my perspective, they'd have understood why I made the decisions that I did, right?
yeah.
And this is the thing with leadership. It is a lonely place, but don't let the walls close in on yourself. Recognize that you're not alone, right? There's people like yourself and like me that have been through this. And every bit of self-doubt that you go through, every single business leader has been through it. It's not just you, it's everyone. And the difference is we're stupid enough to be sharing it.
So I'm conscious of the time, but there's two more things I really want to ask you there. So first one, if you had to give, in a quick summary, 3 top tips for leaders to take away today, in whether that's about being more mindful and understanding themselves more, or actions, top 3 tips that you would give to leaders out there.
Okay, so the first one is lead with energy. And what I mean by that is I want main character energy. As a motivational speaker, when I walk into an event that I'm booked for, I walk in like I'm 10 men, right? I don't go around high-fiving my kids at home, but there's a main character energy that I bring. So whenever you watch Conor McGregor at a fight, he gets out and he's got a cigar in his mouth and he's out of a Range Rover or a Rolls Royce. That isn't how he walks around. So there's an energy about him that shows he's a celebrity. That's what I need you to do. So you think about this as individuals. Be that best version of you when you're in the office. Don't go around being miserable. Don't be sat there. Be the guy. Be the, shoulders back, tits and teeth, and go for it. That's what I would say on that one, right? Remember what I said is, ask yourself this question. Is this the best use of my time? As a leader, is this the best use of my time? If the answer is no, what is? And go and do that. So always ask that question. And I would also say that when it comes to meetings, 10 minutes, 10-minute meetings, 10-minute meetings. Because what happens is then you have, how's the Labrador at the moment, Ned? Oh, yeah, everything's good. How's the kids? How's the family? You get it out of the way, 30 seconds, done. If you've got 15 minutes, you have 5 minutes of that. And actually, you see what I'm saying? So 10 minutes is good enough. And then if you need an extension for another 5 minutes, have an extension for 5 minutes. But that gets you, as you start, the clock starts ticking, and this applies to life, by the way, life and business. As the clock starts ticking down, you start getting honed and you're thinking, I'm going to share with you probably one of the most significant and best bits of leadership that I've ever taught. And the reason I say I taught it is this is what Bentley Global use. And the reason that Bentley Global used it is I taught it than me, Brad Burton, the former drug addict. Brad Burton, the guy who's done 4 years on benefits. No, not that one, the other one. When it comes to making decisions, where we end up in our life is a direct result of our decisions, good ones and bad ones. Want more success? Make better decisions. Why do people make wrong decisions? They don't realize they're wrong because a mistake is only a mistake after the event. Up until that point, it's the correct decision. No one, including me, wakes up and says, I'm going to go and fuck up today. But occasionally I will. So you've got to understand that you can beat that. But the point is this. When it comes to making decisions, I'm the easiest person in the world to sell to because I'll make a decision in 24 seconds. If I can't make a decision in 24 seconds, I revisit it in 24 minutes. If after 24 minutes I can't make a decision, I revisit in 24 hours. If after 24 hours I can't make a decision, I've just made a decision. It's not important. Next. Yeah. And this is what I instill in teams. Are we going to get some more data in 24 hours and 1 minute? No. well, what we're waiting on. Let's make a decision that we believe as a collective. And I instill that 24, 24, 24 within any team that I work with. And it just allows that speed of thought. And it's about better decisions faster. Your ability to make decisions fast and assertively is going to dictate where you end up as an organization and as an individual.
Can't resist but to throw in a quote from Tony Robbins here that again I used to have on my wall, but it is in moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. So, which
Beautiful.
resonates with the point you just made. Um, Okay, and final thing I need to touch on because we are a digital podcast, so we need to somehow take technology into consideration. And technology has been a massive enabler, and the catalyst that was COVID has massively fast tracked how well and this technology works and what it opens up. When it comes to culture, motivation, and the human side, is technology a friend or a foe?
You know, I love technology. I've been using it since 1980. Big technology guy. What I would say is, I think we've underestimated, or don't think the AI has the impact that that's going to have on the world. I've been an early adopter of AI for over a year, and it's outputting me in a way that, as a one man band, is just unbelievable. But I think we've got ourselves in an AI arms race, and I think there's a real danger now as individuals in that jobs are going to be affected. Jobs are 100% going to be affected. So right now, it's an absolute friend. I kind of miss the beautiful days of the olden internet of 2009, 2011, when everything was good. I think what we've got right now is a weaponized internet. I think it's creating division. I thought social media used to bring us together. I think it's creating more division right now. So as much as I genuinely love technology, I do, I think we're in danger. And I also think that the world is going far too fast. We've not even thought or caught up with the last set of technological developments, and we've got another one. If you think about it, you've got an Iron Age, you've got a Bronze Age, you've got a Steam Age, you've got a Digital Age, we've got an AI Age, and we've never quite caught up with the digital one. Dangerous times for the world. Dangerous times for the world. As much as I love technology, I think it really is dangerous times for the world.
Well, we are going through the fourth industrial revolution, which
Yeah,
the only thing we know is that the status quo is not going to be the same.
correct.
Look, Brad, it's been an absolutely fascinating conversation. I could do, I think, another hour or two with you, but I feel the amount of energy I felt just remotely. I can't wait for us to sit down and have a beer or two.
Oh, how lovely. Where are you based, Nedge?
Leeds, just across the hill from you. So,
I'm speaking in Sheffield next Friday, if you fancy it.
well, let me know. Let me know the details. But at first and
Yeah, we'll pick
foremost,
up the others.
let's absolutely. Well, Brad, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and getting to know you a little bit better. I'm sure our audience will be um, will immensely benefit from this conversation. I'm going to put links to your profile and everything so that
Yes,
anybody out there who's looking to put a little bit of a boost of motivation and inspiration into their teams, do reach out to Brad. He comes highly recommended, and I look forward to working with him myself. Brad,
thank
thank
you, Brendan.
you so much for your time, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you and you and your team for organising this. Cheers.